The View studio was a vibrant hive of energy, the audience buzzing with anticipation as the iconic theme music faded and the hosts Whoopi Goldberg, Joy Behar, Sunny Hostin, Sarah Haynes, and Alyssa Farah Griffin settled at their round table, ready to dive into the day's hot topics. The cameras panned to Charlize Theron, the Oscar-winning actress and humanitarian, striding onto the set with her trademark poise, her sleek blazer and confident smile commanding the room. The crowd erupted in applause, thrilled to see the Mad Max star, who was there to promote her latest action thriller and her Charlize Theron Africa outreach project. Whoopi introduced her warmly, but Joy Behar, known for her sharp tongue and no-filter approach, leaned forward with a glint in her eye. "Charlize, you're out here saving the world and kicking butt on screen, but let's be real, don't you ever get tired of being Hollywood's perfect do-gooder?" The audience chuckled, but Charlize's smile tightened, sensing the jab. "Joy, I'm just trying to make a difference, not chase perfection," she replied, her South African accent crisp and measured. Joy, never one to let a guest off easy, pressed on. "Oh, come on, you've got the looks. The Oscars, the charity, some of us are wondering if you're human or just a CGI creation." The crowd laughed, but Charlize's eyes narrowed, her voice cool. "I'm human enough to call out a cheap shot when I hear one, Joy." The audience gasped, and Whoopi raised an eyebrow, sensing the temperature rising. Joy, unfazed, doubled down with a smirk. "Cheap? I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. You're too good to be true, and it's a little exhausting." Charlize leaned forward, her tone sharp but controlled. "Exhausting? Try living my life under a microscope, Joy. You'd be surprised how real it gets." The other hosts exchanged glances, and Sunny tried to pivot. "Let's talk about your outreach work in Africa. Such an inspiration." But Joy wasn't done. "Inspiration's great, but let's talk real. You're out here preaching about equality while starring in films that glorify violence. Isn't that a bit hypocritical?" The audience murmured, split between those who loved Joy's boldness and those who admired Charlize's conviction. Charlize's jaw tightened, her voice rising. "You're twisting my work to fit your narrative, Joy. My films tell stories, and my charity changes lives. Maybe you should try understanding before judging." The crowd cheered, but Joy's eyes sparkled with mischief. "Oh, I understand plenty. You're selling empowerment while blowing things up on screen. Own it, Charlize." The exchange was electric, the studio crackling with tension as the cameras zoomed in on Charlize's steely gaze and Joy's defiant smirk. The other hosts tried to steer the conversation, but the clash was undeniably a battle of wits between a Hollywood titan and a talk show legend. The producers, watching from the control room, knew they had gold, but the air felt volatile, like a spark could ignite the whole set. Charlize, her composure fraying, fired back. "You're not here to discuss, Joy, you're here to provoke." "I'm not your punching bag." The audience roared, and Joy leaned back, her laugh sharp. "Punching bag? Sweetie, this is The View. If you can't handle the heat, why'd you show up?" The challenge hung in the air, and Charlize's face flushed, her voice dropping to a dangerous whisper. "I showed up to talk, not to be ambushed." The crowd was on its feet, the energy chaotic, as the stage was set for a showdown that would soon spiral out of control. This was The View at its rawest, and no one was looking away. As The View returned from a commercial break, the studio was a pressure cooker, the audience buzzing with anticipation. After the fiery opening clash between Charlize Theron and Joy Behar, the round table was a battlefield, with Whoopi trying to restore order. "All right, let's keep this civil, Lady S. Charlize, tell us about your new film." But Joy, her eyes twinkling with mischief, wasn't ready to let go. "Yeah, Charlize, tell us how you saved the world in between explosions and red carpet gowns." The audience laughed, but Charlize's smile was gone, replaced by a steely glare. "Joy, you're obsessed with painting me as a contradiction. Maybe you're just jealous I can do both, to make art and make a difference," she shot back, her voice slicing through the noise. The crowd gasped, and Joy's eyebrows shot up, her laugh sharp. "Jealous? Oh, honey, I've been calling out hypocrisy since you were in diapers." "You're not special." The jab was vicious, and Charlize leaned forward, her voice low and intense. "You call it hypocrisy, I call it living my truth. You wouldn't understand it, you're too busy playing the contrarian for ratings. The audience erupted, some cheering Charlize's fire, others chanting joy, joy. As the tension skyrocketed, Whoopi tried to intervene. Okay, let's talk about something else. Yeah, your outreach project is doing amazing work. But Joy waved her off. Hold on, Whoopi. I want to hear Charlize explain how she's changing the world while cashing Hollywood checks. That's the real story. Charlize's face reddened, her voice rising. You think you're exposing me, Joy? I've spent years building schools, fighting AIDS, helping kids in South Africa, while you sit here throwing shade for applause. The accusation landed like a thunderclap, and Joy's smirk faltered, her eyes narrowing. Throwing shade? I'm asking questions, Charlize. You're the one dodging them with your saintly spiel. The crowd was in a frenzy, the noise deafening, as Sonny and Sarah exchanged nervous glances, unsure how to defuse the situation. Charlize, her fists clenched, fired back. Dodging? I'm right here, Joy, calling you out for twisting my life into your little narrative. You're not a journalist, you're a provocateur. Joy leaned forward, her voice dripping with sarcasm. A provocateur? I'm just keeping it real, unlike your carefully curated image. The audience gasped, and Charlize's eyes blazed. Curated? I've fought harder for everything I have than you'll ever know. You're just a loudmouth with a platform. The insult was a direct hit, and Joy's face darkened, her voice sharp. Loudmouth, at least I don't need a PR team to make me look good. The crowd roared, and Charlize stood, her voice booming. You're pathetic, Joy. You tear people down because it's all you've got. The studio was chaos, the audience on its feet, as Whoopi signaled for the band to play, but the music couldn't drown out the drama. Joy, unfazed, leaned back. Tear you down? You're doing that yourself, Charlize. Maybe Hollywood's not as tough as you think. Charlize's chest heaved, her voice trembling with rage. I'm done with your games, Joy. You don't get to disrespect me like this. The producers, now frantic, signaled for security, but the clash was unstoppable, the cameras capturing every moment of the escalating feud. The other hosts tried to jump in, but their voices were lost in the noise. Charlize, her patience obliterated, took a step toward the edge of the set, her eyes locked on Joy's. You want a fight? You've got one, but I'm not playing on your terms. The audience held its breath, sensing the climax, as Joy fired back. My terms? This is the view, Charlize. If you can't handle it, there's the exit. The challenge was a gauntlet thrown, and the stage was set for the moment that would define the day's chaos. The View studio was a tinderbox, the air thick with the heat of the escalating showdown between Charlize Theron and Joy Behar, two powerhouses locked in a verbal duel that had the audience on the edge of their seats. Charlize, now standing, loomed over the round table, her blazer catching the light as she pointed at Joy. You think you are clever, Joy, turning my life into your punchline, but you're just a bully hiding behind a talk show desk. The crowd roared, split between those who loved Joy's audacity and those who admired Charlize's defiance. Joy, her eyes glinting, leaned forward. A bully? Oh, Charlize, I'm just asking the tough questions you don't want to answer, like how you justify your action star paychecks while preaching peace. The jab was sharp, and Charlize's voice boomed. You don't get to lecture me on integrity, Joy. I've built my career from nothing, faced every kind of scrutiny, and still do more good than your snarky hot takes ever will. The audience gasped, and Joy's smirk returned, her voice dripping with sarcasm. From nothing? You're a Hollywood A-lister, Charlize. Don't play the underdog with me. The crowd was in a frenzy, some chanting Charlize, while others cheered for Joy's relentless edge. Whoopi tried to intervene. All right, let's cool it down at Charlize. Your charity work is incredible, let's focus there. But Charlize wasn't having it. No, Whoopi, I'm done letting Joy twist my story. She's not interested in truth, she's interested in drama. Joy laughed, her tone cutting. Drama? You brought it with you, Charlize. You're the one turning this into a soap opera. The accusation stung, and Charlize's eyes flashed with fury. You're the one writing the script, Joy, painting me as some fake altruist because it fits your narrative. The studio was chaos, the audience on its feet, As Sonny and Alyssa tried to jump in, their voices drowned out by the noise. Joy, unfazed, leaned back. Narrative? I'm just calling it like I see it. You're a star who wants to be a saint, but you can't have it both ways. Charlize's voice rose to a shout. You're wrong, Joy. I've earned every bit of who I am, and I won't let you reduce me to your cheap shots. The crowd roared, and Joy's eyes narrowed, her voice icy. Cheap? I'm keeping it real, Charlize. If you can't handle a little pushback, maybe you're not as tough as you think. The insult was a direct hit, and Charlize's face contorted with rage. Tough? I've faced worse than you in boardrooms and battlefields, Joy. You're just a loudmouth who's run out of ideas. The audience gasped, and Joy stood, matching Charlize's intensity. Run out of ideas? I've got plenty. Like how you're dodging the real question, why are you really here? The challenge was a spark in a powder keg, and Charlize's voice trembled with fury. I'm here to talk about my work, not to be your punching bag. You're done, Joy. The crowd was on its feet, the noise deafening, as the producers signaled frantically for the band. The music started, but it couldn't drown out the chaos. Charlize, her chest heaving, slammed her hand on the table. You don't get to disrespect me like this, Joy. I'm out. The audience gasped, and Joy fired back. Disrespect? This is the View, Charlize. You want respect, earn it. Charlize's eyes locked on Joy's, her voice a low growl. I've earned it 1,000 times over. Goodbye. She turned, her heels clicking against the floor, and stormed toward the wings, the crowd roaring as security moved in, unsure whether to follow. The cameras stayed locked on her, capturing the moment that would dominate headlines. As Charlize Theron's figure vanished into the wings of the View's set, the studio was a maelstrom of chaos, the audience's cheers and boos blending into a deafening roar that echoed through the room. Joy Behar stood behind the round table, her face a mix of defiance and surprise, as Whoopi Goldberg frantically signaled for calm. All right, folks. That's why they call it the View. While things get heated, the crowd laughed, but the tension lingered, the air thick with the aftermath of the explosive clash. The band played a frantic tune, trying to cover the awkwardness, but the audience was still buzzing, some chanting Charlize in solidarity, others applauding Joy's fearless edge. Backstage, the producers were in a panic, their headsets crackling with urgent orders as they debated whether to cut to a commercial or let the hosts ride out the storm. The cameras, still rolling, caught Joy adjusting her glasses, her smirk returning as she addressed the audience. Well, that was something. I guess Charlize isn't a fan of tough love. The crowd laughed, but it was half-hearted, the room still reeling from the drama. Social media was already ablaze, with clips of the confrontation going viral. Fans and critics dissecting every word, every gesture. Some praised Charlize for standing up to Joy's relentless jabs, calling her a queen for walking off with dignity, while others accused her of being too sensitive, unable to handle the View's signature heat. The narrative was spiraling, just as Charlize had warned, her words about scrutiny proving prophetic. Whoopi tried to pivot. Let's move on, Sonny. What's our next topic? But the audience wasn't ready to let go, their energy still tied to the clash. Backstage, Charlize was whisked away by her team, the paparazzi already swarming the studio exits, hungry for a soundbite. The producers, now in damage control mode, cued a pre-taped segment, but the crowd wasn't buying it. They wanted more of the raw, unfiltered chaos they'd just witnessed. Joy, ever the provocateur, leaned back with a grin. Look, folks, Charlize is a superstar, but even superstars have to face the music sometimes. The crowd cheered, but the moment felt hollow, the weight of Charlize's exit lingering. The internet was merciless, with hashtags like #Charlize vs Joy and #The View Meltdown trending within minutes, alongside memes of Charlize's table slam and Joy's steely glare. The confrontation had tapped into a larger cultural nerve via celebrity versus media, authenticity versus provocation, vulnerability versus bravado. For Charlize, it was a stand against being reduced to a caricature, a moment of defiance that would fuel her narrative of strength. For Joy, it was another day on The View, where no guest was safe from her sharp tongue, even if it meant pushing them to the edge. As the show wrapped, Whoopi signed off with a wry smile. Thanks for joining us, folks. Come back tomorrow or maybe we'll keep everyone on stage." The crowd laughed, but the moment belonged to Charlize's walk-off, a legendary exit that would dominate headlines for weeks. The studio lights dimmed, and the audience filed out, still buzzing about the day Charlize Theron destroyed Joy Behar and lived only to walk off in a blaze of glory.